it's weird because Jim Norton was with you at that time,
right?
And you would like saying all, and he was like,
Jim Norton's a pussy. I mean, he really is a pussy. Because,
he wouldn't say anything
because he didn't want to do radio with me, but he liked the money that he was being offered from Sirius XM. Right? He belonged with Anthony from the get-go. When Anthony got fired. Those two were the ones that were really getting along. So Jimmy should have left and went over there with Anthony. They work well together. They're friends. But he decided to stay at Sirius knowing he didn't want to do radio with me. But he liked the exposure, the fan base, and the amount of money they were giving him.
Yeah, I felt bad for you too because it was like you were talking to Jim and Jim wouldn't give you anything.
Nothing.
And it was like,
thank you for noticing this because you're a radio guy. You've done this a long time.
Yeah.
He purposely made sure he wouldn't laugh or go with anything I was doing. And I'm like, then what the fuck are you doing here, man?
Yeah, and
then he had a plan. He had a plan, man.
Yeah, which was what? To get his own show?
To take over the show.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that he took over.
Oh, evil shit. Oh. I don't know how much Carl wants to say today, but it was evil shit. But thank you for noticing that because Carl's like, man, you seem like you're back to your old self again. I'm like, I am because, we're doing stuff. We're enjoying it.
And just a background for my listeners. Back in the day when Don and I were on doing middays at WNEW, it got so bad that we had separate hallways that we would walk down to get to our studios. So we literally would not walk into each other. I never had a problem with Anthony, and I have to be completely honest here. I never really knew Opie all that well, but the on-air fights and it was a terrible time in my career. It was a terrible time in my life, and it was just to the point where some of the best publicity I ever got is when I think, Jimmy, you were booked to be on the show probably after the Don and Mike show. And I think, I think that's what it was. And I said, I don't want to book him. I don't want him to come on the show. And I think I had said something like that. And then you guys discussed it, and it was a throwaway bit. But the dysfunction of this business we're in right now, the little bits that I have jumped in and paid attention on Sirius, man, it's been an interesting ride for you up at Sirius Satellite Radio with Anthony and with Opie and with all the drama up there. How have things settled in a little bit?
They have, but it's funny. You're right, dude. Radio is such a weird because it's so personal, and we have to talk for 4 hours. So any slight or anything anybody does is discussed and picked apart. It's like going over the Zapruder film. That's how everybody does it because we have hours to kill. So radio feuds get really ugly and go really deep and last a really long time. As far as the thing with Opie, we have no relation. In fact, somebody hit me on Twitter. She says, Opie called me a pussy. Like, he called me a pussy, because I stayed with him instead of going with Anthony. When the reality was when Anthony got fired, I was hoping Anthony would come back to the show. I was hoping he would come back on. But yeah, Opie was right. I just didn't enjoy working with him. He's not lying about that. And, he didn't enjoy working with me either. The problem with our breakup is, Anthony and I have always stayed friends. But Opie acts like a victim, like everyone was out plotting to get him. He actually said, Jimmy wouldn't give me anything in studio, laugh-wise. It's like, hey, stupid, if your jokes were funny, I would have laughed. This idiot acts like I was sitting there plotting against him. It's like, that's just not how my mind works. We stopped getting along. And it was a mutual thing. We stopped liking each other. And, I'm not going to be a baby and a victim about it. I'm not a victim. I'm sure I was a big part of the problem. He'll acknowledge he was a part of the problem, but he doesn't truly know how he was a part of the problem. If he thinks that anybody plotted, he thinks that me and Sam plotted to take his show, instead of realizing he sat out for almost the entire month of August because he thinks he's Howard. And it's like, hey, you just couldn't get away with that. When they were negotiating that final deal, instead of sitting on your ass on the beach, had you been in doing radio shows, me and Sam would not have been doing radio shows, and you'd still have your morning show, and Sam and I would have went 10-1. He's just delusional, and that's what makes him so difficult to be around.
To me, that he surrounded himself with some very funny people, like you and Anthony and the comedians that would come on. But he was great at the fighting and great at the bitter. He was kind of an unhappy dude, and maybe it sounds like he still might be.
Well, here's the Opie's fatal flaw. Is that he can be, there's two versions of Opie. there's the version of Opie when he's comfortable. And when he's comfortable, he's a really fun guy to be around. Like, I love that guy. I like doing radio with that guy. I like traveling with that guy. I've spent hours with him, and, months, years, whatever. But the insecure version of him, when he watches everybody in the room being funny and he doesn't feel like he fits in, he doesn't feel like he belongs there, and he can deny that. But I've been around funny people my whole career.
Right.
When he's insecure, he's awful. Because he turns into a baby and he turns resentful of people who are being funny around him. And comics pick that up in a second when someone is being a little passive aggressive because they're jealous because they're not as funny as the other people in the room. If he had just relaxed and enjoyed it, he would have been much more fun to be around. I'm sure he has his complaints about me. I can only tell you that me and Anthony have remained very close. You know what I mean? It's like he's just unable to see it, and I don't care if he ever sees it. Like, I have no interest in helping him see it. Let him say what he wants and feel how he wants. It's irrelevant to me, But it's funny. I've talked to so many guys who we fought with because I've gone on Lex and Terry. So many other countless shows on the road that we've had fights with. I'm on the road, and all of a sudden I'll walk in. They'll be like, "Do you remember what you said about us?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea that we've even attacked them." So, I actually love talking to those shows that we fought with. It's fun, years later.
That's funny too. I think that the relationship there was it was very brief, but it was very passionate, at least on my end. I can't speak for Don. I don't speak to Don that often anymore, if at all. And it's very you kind of move on in this business. There's really no other way that I can handle it. Is you kind of move forward and keep moving forward with that. What I do remember is how painful it was, and it was difficult because we were going up to the big city. We were going to New York. This is our break. This is what we were trying to do, and it was nobody's fault but our own. It didn't translate to the midday show, and that was it. Then I followed it in a very bitter, angry, and jealous way afterwards. I was like, "Oh, did they do that?" And then Sex for Sam came down the road. I'm like, "Ha! Yeah. They got fired! Thank God! Thank God!" I was psyched about that, and then over the years, I've kind of paid attention to it a little bit and watched the progress and everything that went on. A question before I want to talk about you and your special and everything else, but about Anthony Cumia. So, Anthony, do you think Anthony's meltdowns and his kind of public pain that everybody witnessed, do you think that was born out of that relationship a little bit? Because I know when you're working with somebody and it's difficult and there's, it's every day, it's out there for everybody to see. Do you think a lot of his issues came from a level of pain he was experiencing in that show?
They were both volatile. All three of us were volatile before we walked in. Like, Opie didn't make me volatile or make Anthony a disaster, and Anthony didn't make either of us that way. We all came in broken. And I think we brought out at times the most extreme or the worst in each other. But no, that one I'll have to say, that was probably Anthony just having too much to drink and being on the street and having an argument and tweeting. I don't think that had anything to do with Opie, to be honest with you. That was just Ant having a bad night and probably having one too many. And then, thank God Twitter didn't exist when I was drinking, because I know so many people have ruined their lives and careers on Twitter. So no, that was just, I think, Anthony being drunk and tweeting.